Nigeria faces a profound and escalating crisis, marked by severe violence and persecution targeting its Christian population. This situation has drawn significant international attention due to its scale and brutality. Many observers and human rights organizations have described the ongoing atrocities as approaching genocidal levels. The primary drivers of this violence are identified as Islamist extremist groups operating within the country. These groups employ systematic campaigns of terror and destruction against Christian communities. Their actions contribute to widespread instability and human suffering. Two key extremist organizations are consistently implicated in these attacks. Boko Haram, a well-known jihadist group, and increasingly Fulani militants, are responsible for much of the devastation. Their methods and motivations, while distinct, converge in their impact on Christian lives. The targets of these attacks are often specific and deliberate. Christian communities, their churches, schools, and entire villages are routinely subjected to raids and destruction. These locations represent the heart of Christian life and identity in Nigeria. The outcomes of these assaults are consistently tragic. They include mass killings often carried out with extreme brutality and the forced displacement of vast populations. Homes, livelihoods, and essential infrastructure are routinely destroyed, leaving survivors with nothing. An underlying motivation for these acts of violence is undeniably religious. The perpetrators often articulate their objectives in theological terms, framing their actions as part of a broader religious struggle. This religious dimension complicates efforts to resolve the conflict. The stated aims of these extremist groups are clear and alarming. They seek the establishment of an Islamic state across parts of Nigeria, particularly in the north. Furthermore, they explicitly aim for the elimination of Christian presence in regions they seek to control. Boko Haram has long been synonymous with brutal tactics designed to instill terror and destabilize the region. Their operations include devastating suicide bombings in public places and places of worship. These attacks cause mass casualties and widespread fear. The group is also notorious for large-scale kidnappings, often targeting women and children. These abductions are frequently accompanied by demands for ransom or used as a means of forced recruitment. They also engage in the forced conversion of Christians, a tactic aimed at erasing religious identity. Fulani militants represent an evolving and increasingly complex threat. Traditionally, these groups were nomadic herders, often clashing with settled farming communities over land and resources. These conflicts were historically rooted in economic and environmental factors. However, these clashes have increasingly escalated into religiously charged conflicts. The lines between resource disputes and religious animosity have blurred, leading to more systematic attacks on Christian farming communities. This shift has intensified the violence. The humanitarian impact of these combined threats is immense. Nigeria is grappling with a significant humanitarian crisis, one of the largest globally. Millions of people have been displaced from their homes, becoming internally displaced persons. These displaced populations are in desperate need of assistance, including food, shelter, and medical care. The ongoing violence makes it challenging for aid organizations to reach those most affected. The crisis continues to deepen, demanding urgent attention. The international community has expressed significant concern regarding the plight of Christians in Nigeria. Various international organizations and governments have issued condemnations of the violence. These statements highlight the severity of the situation. There have been consistent calls for the protection of religious minorities in Nigeria. These appeals urge the Nigerian government and international bodies to take decisive action. The global response, however, has been varied in its intensity and effectiveness. Despite widespread condemnation, a unified and robust international intervention has remained elusive. Different nations and organizations have approached the crisis with varying degrees of engagement. This fragmented response has limited its overall impact. Domestically, the Nigerian government has faced considerable criticism for its handling of the crisis. Many observers in affected communities perceive the government as slow or ineffective in addressing the violence. This perception erodes public trust. Accusations of complicity or inaction have also been leveled against elements within the Nigerian state. Critics argue that the government has not adequately protected its Christian citizens. These allegations further complicate efforts to restore peace and security. The government's response has often been characterized by military operations that have not fully contained the extremist groups. A lack of comprehensive strategy and political will is frequently cited as a barrier to effective resolution. This ongoing struggle highlights deep-seated challenges within the nation. The Donald Trump administration adopted a notably vocal stance on the persecution of Christians in Nigeria. This issue became a prominent feature of its foreign policy agenda. The administration frequently highlighted religious freedom as a core concern. A significant action taken by the Trump administration was the designation of Nigeria as a Country of Particular Concern, or CPC. This designation was specifically for religious freedom violations, a powerful diplomatic tool. It signaled serious concerns about the Nigerian government's actions or inactions. The CPC designation carries the potential for sanctions and other diplomatic actions. It serves as a formal warning to the designated country. This move aimed to pressure Nigeria into improving its record on protecting religious minorities. President Trump himself engaged personally with the issue, frequently speaking out against the violence. He used various platforms to condemn the attacks and express solidarity with the victims. His public statements brought increased visibility to the crisis. He often met with survivors and advocates, reinforcing his administration's commitment to religious freedom globally. These engagements underscored a direct interest in the welfare of persecuted Christians. This personal involvement was a hallmark of his approach. The administration also increased aid to Nigeria, focusing on specific areas. A significant portion of this aid was directed towards humanitarian assistance. This support aimed to alleviate the suffering of displaced populations and those affected by violence. Furthermore, there was an emphasis on security cooperation with Nigeria. This involved providing resources and training to Nigerian forces. The goal was to enhance their capacity to combat extremist groups and protect vulnerable communities. This increased aid and cooperation were presented as part of a broader strategy. The administration sought to address both the immediate humanitarian needs and the underlying security challenges. The intervention aimed to be comprehensive in its scope. The Trump administration's actions regarding Christian persecution in Nigeria received a mixed reception. Some groups, particularly religious freedom advocates and affected communities, welcomed the intervention. They saw it as a necessary and overdue acknowledgement of the crisis. However, others criticized the administration's approach, viewing it as politically motivated or insufficient. Critics argued that the focus on religious persecution might have been selective. They suggested it served broader political objectives rather than purely humanitarian ones. A significant debate arose over the precise focus of the intervention. Some argue that the emphasis on religious persecution overshadowed other critical factors contributing to the conflict. This perspective suggested a more nuanced understanding was needed. Other contributing factors, such as economic inequality and long-standing land disputes, were often cited. These issues are deeply intertwined with the violence in Nigeria. They represent complex socio-economic challenges that predate the religious dimension. The effectiveness of the Trump administration's policies remains a subject of ongoing debate. Despite the CPC designation and increased aid, attacks against Christians continued throughout Trump's term. This raised questions about the tangible impact of the intervention. Critics pointed to the persistent violence as evidence that the policies did not achieve their desired outcome. The complex nature of the conflict meant that a singular focus might not have been enough. The situation on the ground remained dire for many. The current situation in Nigeria remains complex and volatile. The underlying issues that fuel the violence persist, and new challenges continue to emerge. The country faces a multifaceted crisis that defies simple solutions. Addressing this crisis requires a truly multifaceted approach. It necessitates not only immediate security interventions, but also long-term strategies. These strategies must tackle the root causes of instability and conflict. There is an urgent need to address immediate security concerns, protecting vulnerable populations from ongoing attacks. This involves strengthening law enforcement and military capabilities. It also requires ensuring accountability for perpetrators of violence. Equally important is the need to address underlying social and economic factors. This includes promoting economic development, resolving land disputes peacefully, and fostering intercommunal dialogue. Sustainable peace depends on these broader efforts.